At the age of 32, I kept a poor male college student. Passing by the university, I saw William pinning a girl in his arms. His eyes were red, looking aggrieved and forbearing. Don't think I'm dirty. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. It was a proper nurturing relationship. How come it seemed like I had defiled William? If he thought it was dirty, there were plenty of people who didn't. I spat out a puff of smoke, turned to look at a young man with dyed yellow hair wearing fake brands passing by, and said, "Ask him if he'd like to recognize a mommy." Stephen was brought to my office in the afternoon. Sunlight passed through the floor to the ceiling windows on the 32nd floor and landed on his Balenciaga t-shirt, Yohji Yamamoto pants, and Louis Vuitton shoes. Fake. Fake. Still fake. But he had a good-looking face. Unlike William, who looked cold and aloof, with an air of pride. Stephen was like a product of technology. A plastic surgery template. Exquisite. Cheap. And a bit worldly. But I'd had enough of the refined stuff and wanted to try something more down to earth today. Anyway, they were all out to sell themselves. Why should I choose someone who did it reluctantly? As soon as he opened his mouth, I knew I had made the right choice. "I heard you want to be my mom. Should I call you directly?" He was so quick-witted, but I wasn't into that. I had a feeling that today he'd want me to support his debut. Tomorrow, he'd ask me to find resources for him to play the male lead. The day after tomorrow, he'd be exposed for being kept and beg me to suppress the negative news. This was exactly what I was looking for. I ignored him and flipped through the materials sent by Secretary Jack. He was from a small city in a less developed county. His family wasn't poor, and their conditions were much better than William's alcoholic father and gambling-addicted mother. His grades were average, much worse than William's, but he was actually 5 centimeters taller than William. I looked up at him, and he smiled at me, showing 8 teeth. He was good-looking, but a bit obsequious. I pursed my lips, feeling a bit disgusted. "How many people have you been with? Men or women?" Stephen's expression remained calm, without any sense of shame at being offended. "Just you, liar," I said. "Secretary Jack will take you to the hospital for a full body check later. If there's no problem, come see me in a week." "Okay, miss." He left cheerfully. When he turned around, I saw his perky buttocks. I thought for 2 seconds whether he had something padded. A week later, before Stephen arrived, I saw William first. He was wearing a washed-out white shirt, faded jeans, and a pair of canvas shoes. Fresh and handsome. A proper poor boy campus heartthrob. He got off the bus, not even willing to take a taxi. I really didn't know where the $300,000 I gave him every month had gone. Don't get me wrong. He wasn't coming to see me. Usually, it was me who went to him. He came to work part-time at the coffee shop downstairs of my company. As usual, his appearance attracted little girls to ask for his contact information. William refused, saying he had someone he liked. In the past, I would have confidently thought that person was me. After all, I was beautiful, rich, and generous. The last point was the key. Not liking me was no different from not liking money. It wasn't like I was asking him to be passionately in love with me. We were all adults. Taking so much from me and not giving even a little bit of liking in return was a bit hypocritical. I walked in and casually took a seat. William didn't notice me. Just then, a girl dressed exquisitely walked in. William saw her immediately and froze in nervousness at the same time. The girl was wearing a Chanel-style suit, with a Meow Meow hairpin, going for a wealthy daughter look. I didn't get a good look at her last time at the university. This time, I saw her face clearly. I went through the list of powerful families in City A in my mind but couldn't figure out which family's daughter she was. While I was distracted, William's face had turned completely red. I heard him tentatively ask, "Are you here to see me?" The girl raised her chin and said, "No. I just heard the coffee here is good. If William had a tail, it would have drooped by now. Recommend some coffee for me." William immediately introduced all the coffee on the menu conscientiously. He explained it in great detail, talking about the origin of the beans and their taste one by one. Several people in the queue behind left impatiently, but the girl seemed not to have listened to anything and casually ordered the house special. William then considerately introduced the way to drink it to her, telling her it was a bit bitter. He was completely different from the way he was in front of me, being as humble as he could be. I wasn't angry. I was just puzzled. Why wasn't he like this in front of me? I was his benefactor after all. A moment later, I suddenly realized and laughed out loud. He seemed to think that his youth was an equivalent exchange for the $300,000 I gave him every month, a house I gave him, and countless gifts. The men in our family all had the tradition of keeping someone. I had seen female college students, female celebrities, and some professionals. A few days ago, my uncle almost had a child from his affair and gave $3 million as a breakup fee. A benefactor like me, who is so generous and not unpleasant to look at, was hard to come by. Just because it was a mutual agreement didn't mean he wasn't taking advantage. Before, I indulged William, and I didn't care about these small amounts of money. He took the money but stood me up several times. He either said he had to go tutoring, do part-time jobs, or had work in the student union or in the laboratory. I wasn't angry. I even asked the maid to cook soup and send it to him. Once, when my father saw me, he thought I was in love and gave me a warning. Don't get too involved. My indulgence towards William seemed to make everyone think that my liking for him was something special. It was ridiculous to say. I had thought so myself at times. Before I kicked my brother abroad and took the position of general manager, I had never been in a relationship. Of course, I didn't want to either. I felt it was a bit boring, so I got up and left the coffee shop. As I left, the bell on the door jingled. The person behind the counter seemed to look over. That night, Stephen came to my villa. To my surprise, according to the medical report, he was clean and healthy. Not even a nodule. Unlike last time when he was wearing big logo street-style clothes, this time he was dressed very simply. A white t-shirt, jeans, and sports shoes. His hair, which had been heavily gelled before, hung down, slightly covering his eyes. Presumably, Secretary Jack had told him to dress like William. I frowned. Before I could speak, the person in front of me had taken off his t-shirt. 8 well-defined abs. I wasn't sure if they were real. He chuckled twice. "Miss, do you not like me dressed like this?" "Neither do I." As he said this, he walked over familiarly and touched my hand. I didn't react in time. For a moment, I felt like I was taken advantage of by a young hooligan, until he took the hair tie from my wrist. He tied his semi-long hair into a small ponytail at the back of his head. I let out a sigh of relief. Then I heard him say, "Miss, are you hungry? I'll cook noodles for you." The breath I had just let out almost got stuck in my throat. He looked at the maid coming out of the kitchen, carrying a garbage bag and leaving, and said with a bit of regret, "It seems you've eaten." I understood what he meant and hesitated for a moment before asking him, "Have you not eaten? Do you want something to eat?" Before I could finish, he said, "Thank you." He even found an excuse for himself. "I need to eat enough to serve you well later." Me, Then he cooked 3 bowls of noodles for himself and ate them clean as if he were a starving ghost. I recalled the information. He shouldn't be unable to afford a meal. I said, "There are steaks in the fridge." Stephen shook his head and said, "No need for the steak. I have to work first to get paid." I understood. I actually felt a bit relieved for a moment and affirmed my decision again. I should have found someone who was dead set on this. Half an hour later, I regretted it. The fresh smell of body wash enveloped me. The original trace of unfamiliarity was replaced by heat, and soon I had no time to think about anything else. Stephen didn't forget to provide emotional value. "Miss, you're so beautiful. I'm really lucky. Miss, this is so great." I felt like I had become vulgar. It was like I had hired a farmhand in the village. This vulgar feeling lasted until the next morning. I asked desperately, "Did you take something?" "What?" Stephen was stunned. "Yeah, I took 10. To make you happy." "Forget it. He didn't take anything. He was just lying to me to show his service attitude." Finally, at 2 in the afternoon, I got up, supporting my waist. There was a meeting I couldn't postpone, so I had to crawl to the company if necessary. As I was getting dressed, I heard Stephen say, "Miss, can you help me enter the entertainment industry?" My hand paused as I was buttoning my clothes, and then I rolled my eyes skillfully. "You've only been here once, and you're already making demands on me. 10 times. He corrected me. "That's not what I'm talking about." After being rejected by me, Stephen's good-looking face, which was like a ragdoll cat's, instantly drooped. He wrinkled his nose and complained, "Miss, you said you didn't want it." This comprehension ability, I was really convinced. If I hadn't met him at the university, I would have suspected he hadn't gone to school. No, that didn't mean he was studying there. I asked Stephen, "Are you from University A?" Stephen shook his head honestly. "No, I knew it. I casually made a promise. In a couple of years, I'll send you abroad to get some polish." Stephen seemed to want to say something but held back. "Miss, I don't want to study." I knew. He just wanted to enter the entertainment industry. I waved my hand, indicating that he should stop talking. I had to go to a meeting. I got into the car that Secretary Jack had been waiting in. I turned my head and took a look. Stephen was lying on the balcony, waving goodbye to me, with a mess of hair and a face that was both innocent and alluring. The sunlight shone on his face, making him look like Cupid in Greek mythology. He was also not wearing pants. Impressive. "Miss, come back early." I rubbed my forehead and smiled bitterly. No one must know that I had kept someone like him. As I was looking at the documents, I said, "Secretary Jack, send him some spring limited items." He didn't suit the innocent-looking style like William. Wearing those fake brands all day was embarrassing me. Secretary Jack was stunned for a moment and then said yes. After the meeting, after dealing with a group of old-fashioned people, I was exhausted and slumped in my office chair. I wasn't usually this tired, but today I was especially worn out. It was probably because I didn't sleep last night. The Channing family was like most wealthy families. My father and mother were married for business, and they each did their own thing. Their relationship was quite good. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the 3 of us siblings. My useless elder brother, my love-struck younger sister, and perfect me. Since I was born, my life had been arranged. If I wanted more, I had to fight for it myself. I fought and got it. But was this really what I wanted? "Miss." My buttocks felt cold. Before I could finish my life contemplation, I saw a head pop out from under the table. "What are you doing?" Stephen kissed my thigh. I looked at him expressionlessly. Stephen's well-sculpted face blushed for the first time. He was a bit shy but said something astonishing. "I just learned this in the afternoon. I heard that bosses and their secretaries like to play like this." "What a self-motivated pretty boy." Stephen thought I agreed. The white clouds outside the window were swaying, and for a moment, there was silence. Was it me keeping him or him keeping me? He really wanted to enter the entertainment industry. 3 hours later, Secretary Jack called on the internal line. "Ms. Channing, Mr. William is here." This was really unexpected. Today was the day I had an appointment with William to meet once a week. It wasn't strange that he came to see me. However, he often stood me up, and it was already 11 o'clock at night. I lit a cigarette and said to the person on the other end of the phone, "I'm not available to see him today. Ask him to go back." Secretary Jack was silent for a moment and said, "I told Mr. William the same thing, but he insisted on waiting for you to finish your work and see you. He's in the meeting room next to yours now." I frowned. Just as I was about to say something, a small face leaned over and took a puff of the cigarette from my fingers. Then he was choked. He coughed violently. I hung up the phone. "Miss, don't smoke." Just when I thought Stephen had suddenly changed his approach and was going to be a caring person, I heard him say, "You should smoke cigars. You'll look cooler." The ash shook and fell onto the marble floor tiles. I said, "You can go back first. I have something to deal with." Stephen didn't ask much and left immediately. William was brought in, still wearing that white shirt and jeans. I was getting a bit tired of seeing it. He stood in front of me, his tone accusatory. "Kathy." I was fired. He seemed to think that I had asked the store manager to fire him. After all, that coffee shop was mine. He was working part-time there with a monthly internship salary of $50,000. I raised an eyebrow. "So?" William's face looked a bit ugly. He still stood straight, his hands clenched into fists at his sides, and his tone became more aggressive. "Did someone in the store say something to you?" "Vanessa is just my junior sister. I was just doing what a store clerk should do. You can't just fire me like that. You rich people are always so arrogant." I interrupted him. "Then I'll ask the coffee shop to rehire you." William's words stopped abruptly. He didn't expect me to be so easygoing. That's good." I smiled and continued. "Like other interns. $3,000 a month. Are you willing?" William stared at me with wide eyes, as if he had been insulted. He was silent for a few seconds. "Kathy, stop messing around. I told you. Vanessa and I are not in a romantic relationship." A hint of impatience emerged in his brows and eyes. I sized him up and suddenly found him a bit rough and dull. His skin wasn't as smooth as Stephen's. His eyes weren't as bright. His lips weren't as pink. His nose wasn't as high. His legs weren't as long. And his abs weren't as firm. And his skills were poor too. Well, Stephen wasn't much better either. But at least he was willing to learn. Vanessa. The name was quite cute. I casually said it, not expecting William to be on high alert. "If you have anything, come at me. She doesn't know anything." I suddenly found it very funny. I deliberately asked, "What do you think I'm going to do to her?" Suddenly, William's gaze fixed on one place. His expression became instantly dull, his eyes blank, and he didn't even care about my question. I followed his gaze. On the polyform sofa, a pair of CK underwear was lying there furtively, quietly listening to the conversation between William and me. As we all know, people tend to laugh when they're speechless. William finally turned to look at me, and then he saw the smile on my face. The person who had been keeping a distance from me as if avoiding suspicion just now walked right up to me in an instant. "Kathy, are you that desperate? Just because I didn't come to see you for a month, you went looking for that kind of man." I wanted to say that Stephen wasn't that kind of man, but I couldn't say it. He was that kind of man. William, the poor but proud campus heartthrob who wasn't afraid of power, actually had red eyes all of a sudden. "Do you know how dirty that kind of man is?" William's voice was loud. He came to grab my wrist, losing his composure for the first time. It seemed he was afraid that I might really catch some dirty disease. The glass on the table fell to the ground and shattered. There was a knock on the door, and Secretary Jack said, "Ms. Channing, do you need me to come in?" William was still chattering on. "Kathy, you don't have to degrade yourself like this just to make me jealous." I raised my voice. "Come in." Secretary Jack came in with two bodyguards who were 9 meters tall. The bodyguards immediately separated William and me. They stood on either side of William, ready to stop him from suddenly hurting me. William looked at me in disbelief. I looked at William with a half smile. "Who gave you the right to talk to me like this?" Maybe as a benefactor. I had been too lenient. So much so that he couldn't figure out our relationship. William's face suddenly turned pale. He never thought I would talk to him like this. He pursed his lips and said, "We're equal." I didn't even want to hear this kind of talk. If we're so equal, why don't I see you giving me $300,000 a month? William was speechless. I raised an eyebrow. "Take the money and do your job well." "You didn't do that." He seemed to have never heard me speak so directly to him and was shocked into widening his eyes. I didn't bother to pay attention to him and got up to leave. William wanted to follow, but was stopped by the bodyguards. I walked quickly. Behind me, Secretary Jack took back the card for my exclusive elevator from William and said, "Mr. William, please make an appointment before coming to see Ms. Channing next time." I didn't buy a house for Stephen, because he refused to leave my villa. 2 months later, I was lying there like a dead dog. Stephen lit a cigar for me. I said, "I'll help you enter the entertainment industry." But Stephen, contrary to his usual self, wasn't very happy. He kissed me on the lips, and I subconsciously shivered. "Thank you, miss. But it's not urgent. I still want to stay with you for a few more days." I was in a hurry. I was almost exhausted. Obviously. 2 months ago, he was eager to go. That day, I gave him a card with a fixed monthly deposit of $300,000 for him. Unexpectedly, Stephen refused. "Miss, I don't want your money. I want you to help me get into acting." Smart kid. He understood that it's better to teach a man to fish than to give him a fish. He was really lucky to have hooked up with me. The entertainment industry is a complex place. The influence of technology tycoons, newly rich people, and real estate moguls doesn't work as well. But the Channing family has been involved in this field for a long time, and there's a brokerage company under it, which is one of the 3 giants in the entertainment industry. I replied to him at that time, "It depends on your performance." Now I regret it. I didn't hold the cigar steady, and it fell onto the carpet. When I bent down to pick it up, the quilt covering me slipped off. The next moment, a hand replaced the quilt, warming me. "Miss." Stephen's eyes darkened, and he kissed me again. I stopped his action. He pouted and looked at me in confusion. I forced a couple of laughs, trying to change the subject. "Don't you have anything else to do?" He had been staying with me for 2 whole months, either in the gym or studying in the home theater. I originally wanted to ask him if he didn't need to go to school, but then I remembered that he didn't want to study. After thinking hard for a few seconds, I finally found an excuse. Don't you need to maintain your face regularly? Stephen rubbed his face. Miss, it's all real. Let you touch it. As he said this, he grabbed my hand and put it on his tall nose, then on his small mouth, then on his chest muscles, his abs. I quickly pulled my hand back. I know. It's all real. It's all real. I finally understood. He was now addicted. Entering the entertainment industry wasn't urgent anymore. What was urgent was to conquer me. No way. Recently, Secretary Jack has been looking at me strangely. On her left face, it seems to say, "From now on, the king." And on her right face, "No morning court." I patted Stephen's bicep and said, "I'll introduce you to some directors tonight." That night, I introduced Stephen to an idol drama director. Director Stanley was very obliging. MS. Channing's younger brother. Of course I'll take good care of him. What year are you in college? Stephen said. Sophomore year. Sophomore year. I was a bit surprised. So young. Stephen winked at me secretly. Not young. Me. I didn't expose his self-fabricated background. Stephen auditioned for a role on the spot. Director Stanley offered him the third male lead. The audition scene was that after he fell in love with the female lead, he locked her in a hotel and confessed. The female lead rejected him and slapped him. He needed to show his infatuation and the domineering president vibe. The script wasn't fully finalized yet, so Stephen had to improvise the lines. I volunteered to step in as the absent female lead for the audition. I sat on the sofa. Stephen knelt at my feet. The director said, "Action." The obsequious and cute look on Stephen's face disappeared instantly. His almond-shaped eyes stared intently at me. His Adam's apple moved, and his long fingers ran through my hair, turning my face to face him directly. Our eyes met. His eyes were dark, and there was a smile on his lips that didn't reach his eyes. Do you really have to like that, William? Am I not good enough? I didn't need to say any lines. Just act like a statue. But Stephen seemed to have heard me say, "No." His jaw tightened, and he sneered, leaning in closer. "Kathy, I serve you better than he does. Don't I? Sister, if you see him again, I'll lock you up." He held my face, and jealousy was evident in his brows and eyes. Director Stanley said Stephen's acting was average. He overacted. He didn't look like a domineering president but more like a mistress. But he was so good looking that he passed anyway. The day before joining the crew, I locked him out of the door. "Miss, I want to repay you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to enter the entertainment industry." I said, "If you really want to repay me, give me some peace tonight." Stephen kept pestering me, "But I'm leaving tomorrow. I'll be filming on location for 3 months, and I won't be able to see you." He stubbornly refused to leave. I pretended not to hear. Finally, there was no sound outside the door. 3 hours later, I opened the door. Stephen was sitting against the door, holding a pillow, and almost fell over. He woke up instantly and slipped in when I wasn't prepared. In a flash, he was already lying on my bed. "Miss, I won't do anything. I just want to hold you and sleep." Fine. I didn't expect him to keep his promise, but he was surprisingly obedient. Early the next morning, the driver took Stephen to the airport. Before leaving, he pulled off my nightgown. Just when I thought he was going to do something, I saw him stuffing my nightgown into his suitcase. I gave him a bleary glare. Stephen kissed me on the forehead. "Miss, come and see me." I didn't answer and pulled the covers over my head to go back to sleep. A month later, I received a gift from Stephen. Of course, I hadn't visited him once in this month. I did answer his calls a few times, but I was really busy recently, and I hung up in less than a minute each time. The gift was a teddy bear. It was colorful, childish, cheap-looking, and a bit ugly. This was the first gift I had ever received from a lover. William had never given me any. On Valentine's Day, I mentioned it once. In a high-end restaurant, I gave William a $1 million watch and then asked him, "Do you have anything for me?" William said, "Do you still need me to give you something? You have everything." He didn't seem to be in a good mood when he said this. Secretary Jack said that some time ago, William's father had beaten his mother again, and his mother had come to the school to ask him for money. I understood his mood and didn't hold his bad attitude against him. The two bare eyes stared at me. It looked like Stephen, pulling me out of my memories. The bear looked a bit familiar, but I couldn't figure out what brand it was after looking at it for a while. When it looked at me, I felt a twinge of guilt. Guilty for not visiting the set. Just as I was thinking whether to go or not, I received a call from William. This was really rare, compared to Stephen, who called 3 times a day. William rarely took the initiative to contact me. I picked up the phone. I didn't speak. The other side was also silent for a long time, presumably realizing that I wouldn't speak first. William said, "I received your apology. Let's make up." I didn't understand. I looked at the calendar on the table and immediately understood. Today was William's birthday, and many luxury brands would send him gifts today. Of course, I had arranged it. I really liked that restaurant last time. We can have dinner there tonight. William paused and continued. I also have a few senior brothers and sisters from the laboratory. They'll come too. I interrupted him. I forgot to ask Secretary Jack to cancel it. What? I said. Those gifts can be regarded as a breakup fee. The last time I saw William, my mind was still in a mess, and I forgot to make things clear with him. I didn't have that much time to play the game of breaking up and making up with him. My time with him wasn't very pleasant. It was really a losing deal. But I was a generous benefactor, and I wouldn't take back what I had given him. A fall into the pit. A gain in your wit. This taught me that I shouldn't be so generous when keeping a young lover in the future. Being too generous made people get carried away. William seemed unable to accept what I said. Kathy, are you still jealous? Or is that man causing trouble? I'm telling you, he's just after your money. I remembered. The fabric of the teddy bear. It was from Stephen's favorite limited edition pajamas. Did he make it into a teddy bear? I picked up the teddy bear and examined it carefully. The crooked stitches. The knots that weren't hidden well. Could it really be sewn by Stephen himself? This was interesting. I didn't listen to what William was still saying. I hung up the phone casually and then told Secretary Jack to make arrangements for me to visit the set. The private jet landed. The commercial vehicle took me all the way to the filming set. It was a coincidence. Stephen was filming a scene with the female lead. He had affectionate eyes and was acting really well. The female lead also seemed to have been pushed into the role by someone. She wasn't a professional actress. She froze 3 times facing Stephen's face, blushing and not daring to look at him. Stephen was very kind, telling her to take her time and not be nervous. A staff member standing next to me whispered in excitement, "I'm shipping it." Stephen turned his head and saw me. To be fair, Stephen was quite talented in acting. During the audition, I didn't know if he was hiding his abilities or what. He brought the villainous domineering president role to life, just like how he played my young lover. Snobbish, cute, and looking at me with a hint of faint love in his eyes. Perfectly in line with my imagination. Stephen pulled me into his nanny car. I soon couldn't breathe. when he was in a hurry to take off his clothes. I kicked him. Miss, do you want to use your feet? I was speechless. Sometimes being too quick-witted wasn't necessarily a good thing. It lacked a bit of shyness. Stephen seemed to notice that I wasn't in high spirits and listlessly put his clothes back on. Why did you come to see me so late? He complained to me. 3 parts complaining, 3 parts acting coquettish, and the remaining 4 parts pure acting. When did you arrive? I said, just when you said to the female lead, can't you tell that I love you? Stephen panicked immediately. Then you saw me holding her. Miss, don't be angry. It's all acting. I used a double for the kissing scene. Sister Wang has arranged it for me. I touched his face and asked him lazily, do you have any more scenes today? Stephen quickly shook his head. When I saw you coming, I asked the director to reschedule my scenes. He wasn't even a big star yet, but he was already acting like one. I could almost picture him in the future, half famous but with a lot of negative news. Stephen asked, so, today, shall I take you around? He was massaging my feet while being overly solicitous. Miss, are you tired? How about going to watch a movie first? So, Stephen and I went to watch a movie like an ordinary young couple. Secretary Jack booked the whole theater. Then we strolled along the street, with bodyguards following us from a distance of about 100 meters. After that, we played golf. Finally, we returned to the suite, and Stephen helped me remove my makeup and take a bath. In fact, there wasn't much makeup to remove, just a bit of sunscreen. He didn't dare to think I was ugly. After all, he was taking my money. This is the advantage of keeping a lover over being in a relationship. I can be completely myself, vent my emotions on him, and not care about his feelings. Stephen hugged me from behind. Miss, I want to. I closed my eyes. I don't want to. Stephen rubbed against my neck, acting coquettishly. Please, miss. It's been a month. I can't hold it any longer. I was so annoyed. When I was almost dizzy, I suddenly woke up. Why does it feel a bit like being in a relationship? This can't be. Maybe I should try using a steel wool ball next time. The ancient idol drama. Falling in love with you in 8 lives and 8 worlds. That Stephen participated in was aired. The drama flopped. But Stephen became popular. It was really beyond my expectation. Stephen suddenly got busy, with a lot of promotional articles and variety show invitations. Facing his plastic surgery-looking face, fans said this was the strong featured type. Stephen had a dissolute-looking face, but his dressing style was abstinent. He would button his shirt all the way to the top button and zip his hoodie up to the top. This was the image packaged for him by the professional team. His persona was a rich young master bravely entering the entertainment industry. So far, none of his primary school classmates, junior high school classmates, or fellow workers from the same factory have come forward to expose him. I called Secretary Jack and asked her to be ready to suppress any negative news about Stephen at any time. When I got off work, I ran into William. I sized him up. It seemed this wasn't really a coincidence. William looked exhausted. His eyes were especially gentle today. Kathy, I don't know why, but I've been thinking about you a lot these past few months. After saying this, his ears turned a bit red. I knew why. I recalled the information I had received before. Vanessa was William's direct junior sister. When Secretary Jack reported this to me, I was puzzled for a while. It's not like ancient times when people learned skills from a master. Why is there such a term as direct junior sister? I studied abroad and came back, so I'm not very familiar with this academic atmosphere full of worldly sophistication and cliques. The students in William's laboratory were exploited quite severely. Vanessa was among them, and she often asked William for help. Gradually, the two got familiar with each other, but there was no ambiguity between them. Until last Valentine's Day, Vanessa suddenly became interested in William. She didn't throw money at him like I did, nor did she like to confess directly like my sister, Joyce. Vanessa was quite skilled at chasing people. Secretary Jack said she even paid to attend a class on how to chase your crush skills. I asked Secretary Jack to sign Joyce up for the same class. She was a pure love enthusiast but had never successfully chased anyone, so she probably needed it. I don't know why Vanessa suddenly became interested in William, until I saw the Rolex Sky Dweller Ice Blue on William's hand. It was the one I gave him last Valentine's Day. Vanessa was very successful in her pursuit. William spent a lot of money on her. My money. When I heard this, I was so angry that I laughed. But since I separated from William, major brands no longer sent him things on time according to the seasons. Most of the money he got from me was used to pay off his family's debts. He also gave away a lot of luxury clothes to his roommates, classmates, senior brothers and sisters in the same department, especially Vanessa. When he was with me, he was used to receiving these things but also looked down on them, thinking they were traps of consumerism and products of capitalism, without any real value. I don't care how he disposed of the things I gave him, but after knowing this, I was still speechless for a few seconds. At this moment, William stood in front of me. His skin seemed rougher, his complexion duller, and his eyebrows were not very delicate. He had a strong, office worker smell. It was the smell of being overworked. Why on earth did I fall for William back then? I tried hard to recall. At that time, I was in a fierce fight with my elder brother. My father supported my elder brother, and my mother tried to be neutral. Only Joyce supported me, but her support didn't help much. I worked so hard to grab a project that I had a gastric hemorrhage. When I was squatting on the roadside, I met William, who was delivering food. Without hesitation, he dropped his work and took me to the nearby hospital. Leaning on his back, I smelled the aroma of preserved egg and lean meat congee in the thermal box. Secretary Jack came and gave William $8,000 as a thank you gift. 2 years later, I became the general manager and the sole heir of the Channing family's business. One night when I suddenly wanted to eat preserved egg and lean meat congee, I thought of William, and the next day, I saw William coming to the villa next door to be a tutor. At that time, Joyce had been crying in my house for a month because of a broken heart. When she saw me looking at William a few more times, she pushed me and encouraged me to start a relationship. Overbearing female president and poor campus heartthrob. Hee. Sister, go for it. But I had never been in a relationship, and I didn't want to be like Joyce, being devastated by love. So I chose another way, a common way in the wealthy families. That's how I approached William. At first, to avoid hurting his self-esteem, I gave him financial support in the name of a scholarship. I also introduced him to another tutoring job, teaching Joyce advanced mathematics for $100,000 a month. Later, when Joyce left, it became $300,000 directly transferred to his bank card. When he received the card, his expression was very embarrassed. I thoughtfully changed the topic. Now, without the money that William thought was dirty, he wasn't used to it, so he thought of me. It was that simple. I smiled at the person in front of me. You don't miss me. You miss my money. Humiliation flashed in William's eyes. Kathy, why do you humiliate me like this? Back then, I didn't beg you. You came to me and wanted to be with me. I never asked you to do this. I raised an eyebrow. Do you need me to apologize? William was like a chicken whose neck was suddenly grabbed. His eyes widened, and his voice stopped abruptly. He stared at me blankly. After a long time, he gave a bitter laugh. Kathy, do you know? Only I don't love your money. Before leaving, William threw a photo in front of me. In the photo, Stephen was walking into a club with a woman wearing a mink coat. I asked Secretary Jack to send a message to William, offering $5 million to buy out this photo. William replied, "Why are you still cleaning up his mess?" I flicked the ash off my cigarette. Because I already knew what kind of person Stephen was. It was just a nurturing relationship. He served me well. I didn't care who he had been with before. But William seemingly couldn't accept it. He blocked Secretary Jack. The photo appeared on the internet the next day and soon spread like wildfire. Stephen had just become popular. As his fans said, he had touched the cakes of many potential rising stars. As soon as there was some negative news, a lot of online trolls swarmed in. When Stephen came back, I was making steak. The butter was sizzling. The sound of the range hood was almost inaudible. The Maillard reaction looked very tempting. The fragrant smell of the charred meat wafted into my nostrils. Stephen seemed to know he had made a mistake. He hugged me from behind, putting his head on my shoulder like a puppy. "Miss, have you seen that?" My breath caught. I actually suspected the authenticity of the photo. But Secretary Jack checked and there was no sign of photo editing. She checked the source. William received it in an envelope one day. But Stephen told me that I was his first benefactor. And his performance the first time was so bad that it made me feel at ease. Secretary Jack also roughly investigated his past. The small city in the 18th tier county was too far away. And I didn't ask Secretary Jack to fly there just for such a trivial matter. But after Stephen came to City A, he really only relied on me. So, I actually didn't quite believe it. Maybe there was some misunderstanding. Until now, Stephen said guiltily, "Miss, I didn't mean to lie to you." So it was true. He really lied. I really wasn't his first benefactor. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself. "Let's have dinner first." I walked out of Stephen's embrace. He was stunned, his arms still in the air. "Miss, are you unhappy?" I shook my head. "No, I just feel a bit disgusted." Stephen's pupils suddenly contracted. He stared at me blankly. "Miss, what did you say?" I calmly cut the steak and said, "I've asked Secretary Jack to deal with the news online." I took 2 bites of the steak. When I was about to take the 3rd bite, Stephen suddenly carried me over his shoulder. The 2 bites I had just eaten almost came out. "Miss, how can you think I'm dirty? How can you be like this?" There was a sobbing tone in his voice, but his actions were not gentle at all. He carried me all the way upstairs. "I'm different from others. I used to be very clean living. I never participated in those kinds of gatherings." Stephen, I shouted, interrupting him. "Put me down." Stephen didn't move. "Don't make me say it again." Stephen sniffled, but still insisted on carrying me into the bedroom and putting me on the bed. Slap. I raised my hand and slapped him. After a moment of stunned silence, he came to rub against my hand. "Miss, does your hand hurt? If it hurts, I'll blow on it for you." There was a red mark on his face, which was highly praised by marketing accounts. His almond-shaped eyes were filled with teardrops. "I'm sure that the second I break up with him, he can find a new benefactor." "Miss, after you said that last time, I asked Secretary Jack what kind of medicine it was. I bought it. I've already taken 2 pills." As he said this, he took off his hoodie and threw it on the ground. I kicked him in the abs. "I want to have dinner first." I said, suppressing my anger. I'm hungry. Stephen looked dejected. He tried to read my expression, and finally sat down on the edge of the bed in despair. Okay, miss. I'll
run. I just suddenly didn't want to continue. Why did there have to be so many reasons? It wasn't even a real relationship. Even in a relationship, one could break up abruptly. I just wanted to change partners. I raised my eyes to look at the person in front of me. He was really good looking. After being groomed by a professional team, he looked even better. He looked like a mixed race. I didn't want things to end up ugly. Stephen, the reason I chose you back then was that you were more sensible than William. After I said this, Stephen fell silent. You're a smart person. Take the money and leave. Let's part on good terms. What if I say no? Stephen suddenly walked closer to me. The familiar smell of body wash. Sweet and refreshing. I resisted the urge to take a deep breath. The moment he was about to bite, I slapped him. Who allowed you to kiss me? Stephen, recognize your place. Stephen laughed. He laughed and kissed me again. Our lips and teeth intertwined. Saliva stretching. After the kiss, he left without looking back. I was left sitting there, completely stunned. Joyce brought her poor boyfriend to my villa. Although he doesn't have a job now, he's really amazing. The current economic situation is bad, so it's not his fault. Then, they were affectionate and had on and off breakups in my villa. That's right. This guy still dared to be unfaithful. Joyce punched and kicked him. The front passenger seat is for me. Can't you tell what your junior female classmate is up to? In the end, the two made up. I just sneered. A few days later, they broke up again. Joyce came to me with swollen eyes from crying. This time it's for real. I didn't believe her. Really. This time it's really true. I caught him kissing another woman. I didn't say anything. Sister, I'm going to go home and get married through an arranged marriage. I put down the documents in my hand and was a bit puzzled. The person you're arranged to marry might not only kiss other women but also sleep with them. Can you tolerate that? Joyce nodded without hesitation. Yes. I don't even like him. Sister, you spilled your coffee. Sister, what's wrong with you? I came back to my senses. The coffee had spilled on the ugly teddy bear doll. That night, I saw the scandal of Stephen and a top-tier female celebrity. The two were seen entering and leaving an apartment together. I turned off my phone screen. I didn't want to see it. I finally understood. Why could I tolerate William being ambiguous with other women? But I couldn't stand Stephen having had a benefactor before. Why didn't I want to continue with Stephen? It was because I actually wanted to continue with him. But knowing this didn't help. He saw me as a benefactor, while I saw him as a partner. If this got out, wouldn't it be a laughing stock? Kathy, couldn't afford to lose that face. Joyce went out to call our mom and came back looking unhappy. I'm really fed up. The person mom arranged for me to marry in the arranged marriage seems like a playboy. He dropped out of college halfway through and came back to China to pursue his dream in the entertainment industry. The Sampson family doesn't support him, so he even found a rich woman to support him. Am I really going to marry him? Most of the Sampson family's businesses are abroad, and the domestic part is not in City A. I hadn't heard much about the Sampson family. I didn't know how my mom arranged this. Clearly, the previous arranged marriage partner wasn't from the Sampson family. The next day, I accompanied Joyce to the blind date. In the high-end restaurant, I saw Stephen. He was standing next to a woman wearing a mink coat. My mom said this was Miss Sampson and her younger brother, Rudolph. My smile froze on my face. Joyce's eyes lit up, and her face turned red. She tugged at my sleeve. Isn't this that popular guy? Humph. Just as I thought. With a face like that, he must be a playboy. Sister, where are you going? I turned around and left. I'm going to smoke a cigarette. When I came back, Joyce and Rudolph were chatting happily. My mom and Miss Sampson had already left. Joyce was very happy. Sister, Rudolph is nice. She said to Rudolph. This is my sister. You can call her sister too from now on. Rudolph smiled distantly and politely called out, Sister. My heart skipped a beat. It felt strange. I'm going to the restroom. Through the mirror in the restroom, I saw a familiar figure. Rudolph walked over casually. He was wearing an off-white sweater today, dressed very casually. The sapphire stud in his earlobe was shining. He looked like a typical old money type. That is, spending a lot of money to pretend to be a laid-back person. Sister, long time no see. I'm going to be your brother-in-law. Are you happy? I didn't want to answer. As we passed by each other, Rudolph grabbed my wrist. Sister, why don't you answer? I suppressed my anger and said, What do you want me to answer? Rudolph chuckled. He suddenly changed the topic. So, did I act well before? The obedient little lover. I sneered. Not bad. Is it because I acted too well that you thought you could just abandon me? His long and narrow eyes narrowed, and his hand stroked my wrist. The familiar touch made my heart flutter. Just when I was about to lose control, he took a step back, creating a distance between us. Sister, remember to call me brother-in-law from now on. The incense in the restroom made my head feel a bit dizzy. I glanced at Rudolph and said, No need to wait. I can call you now, brother-in-law. Rudolph's face was calm but with a hint of gloom. His jawline tightly clenched. The moment I turned to leave, I was pulled into his arms. Rudolph was nibbling on my neck, whining, As if I care about you, brother-in-law. You're biting me too hard. Rudolph froze. After a moment, he bit even harder. I pushed him hard. Rudolph pinched my waist and said, Don't think I can't bear to part with you. I just want to take revenge on you. Do you think I still like you? My phone fell out of my pocket. Just then, Joyce sent me a voice message. Sister, I won't disturb you and brother-in-law. I'm leaving now. Brother-in-law said he wants to chase you and asked me to keep it a secret. Don't tell him I told you. Rudolph, who was pressing on me, stiffened. An embarrassed look flashed across his face. My phone rang. It was the maid from home. That handmade teddy bear of yours. When I washed it in the washing machine, something fell out of it. Rudolph reached for my phone. Don't listen. It's a diamond ring and a pink letter. Like a love letter. Should I throw them away for you? I glanced at Rudolph. His face turned bright red. After a moment, he gave up and kissed me. But he really had a good-looking face. I hung up the phone and looked at Rudolph. He puffed out his cheeks, looking a bit unhappy. You already know. I originally wanted you to experience chasing me to win me back. That was definitely impossible. I had my reputation to uphold. I couldn't afford to lose that face. Rudolph seemed to see what I was thinking and was a bit annoyed. Sister, I'm going to punish you. I nodded agreeably. Okay. I thought he wouldn't dare to do anything. Rudolph smiled meaningfully. Sister, I have a suite on the 38th floor here. And then I didn't see the sun for 3 days. The end.